There are places in the mountains where housing costs less than your monthly subscription services combined, and the governments are practically begging people to move there. No, this is not some dystopian commune experiment. These are real towns that used to thrive, then collapsed, and now sit empty with infrastructure intact, waiting for anyone willing to show up. Everyone thinks cheap housing means moving to the middle of nowhere with nothing to do. But here is what nobody tells you. Scattered across mountain ranges from Europe to Asia to South America are actual functioning towns with roads, buildings, and sometimes even internet, where governments will practically give you a house just to increase the population count. These are the kind of deals that make you wonder what went wrong. Spoiler alert, something definitely went wrong, but the bones of civilization remain, and that might be enough. We are counting down 10 abandoned mountain towns where you can live for $500 a month or less. Some will pay you directly. Others will give you a property if you commit to renovating it. And one place has housing so cheap you could own a multi-bedroom home for what most people spend on a gym membership they never use. One town has more goats than permanent residents. Another is so isolated your groceries come by helicopter during winter, and you learn to stockpile like preppers because access roads close for months. And yes, one place technically has free housing, but the catch is you might be the only person under 60 in the entire village, and your social life becomes attending funerals and helping elderly neighbors with tasks they can no longer do alone. Subscribe because one day you will want to escape to somewhere rent does not consume half your income, and this channel is basically your international relocation guide with actual research instead of filtered Instagram nonsense. Think you can handle mountain isolation? Let us see if you are ready for places where $500 a month gets you a house, but Amazon delivery is a fantasy, your nearest neighbor is a quarter mile away, and your biggest concern becomes whether the road will be passable when you need supplies. Like this video, if you have ever realized cheap housing exists if you are willing to make trade-offs most people would not consider. Let us break it down. Number 10, Sambuca di Sicilia, Italy. Sambuca di Sicilia became international news when they started selling homes for €1, which sounds like a scam, but is completely real. Welcome to Sicily, where depopulation has created opportunities that defy normal real estate logic. Sambuca sits in southwestern Sicily with about 5,000 residents, down from over 7,000 in the 1980s. It is a medieval hill town with winding streets, old stone buildings, and postcard views, except many homes are empty and crumbling. The town launched its €1 home program in 2018 to fight abandonment. You buy a house for literally €1. The catch, you must renovate within 3 years, spend at least €15,000, and post a €5,000 deposit refunded after completion. Here is what Sambuca actually costs. Purchase price, €1. Renovations, realistically 20 to 40,000 depending on condition. Monthly living costs, about 400 to 600 euros. Property taxes, roughly 300 to 500 euros annually. Groceries are cheap. The job market is almost non-existent, so you need remote income or retirement money. Internet exists, but is slower than major cities. The appeal is owning a renovated Sicilian home for less than a down payment almost anywhere else. The catch is committing to a town in long-term decline, where most young people have left, and everyone knows everyone. One couple spent about 30,000 total, own their home outright, and live on around 450 euros a month. They say it is stunningly beautiful and profoundly quiet, but they are often the youngest people in the room by 20 years. The culture is traditional and privacy barely exists. Your presence is welcomed and scrutinized at the same time. Now the bureaucracy, Italian bureaucracy, is legendary. Permits, inspections, renovations, all move at a pace that will test your patience. Documents get lost. Offices close for no clear reason. Processes take months instead of weeks. Picture owning a stone house for €1, overlooking Sicilian valleys, eating incredible food with zero mortgage. Then picture spending 6 weeks trying to get approval for a bathroom because 4 offices need to sign off and none talk to each other. Sometimes cheap comes with time costs that make you seriously question your choices. Number 9, Piobico, Italy. Piobico will literally pay you to move there, with real cash incentives to increase the population. It is in the Marche region of central Italy, with fewer than 2,000 residents. The town sits in the Apennine Mountains, surrounded by forests and steep valleys. It is medieval, built on a hillside with a castle at the top. It is genuinely beautiful and genuinely empty. Younger people left for city jobs. Births dropped. The town began dying demographically, so the local government created incentives. Here is the Piobico offer. They provide financial contributions toward rent or home purchases for people who move there and commit to staying. Monthly rent runs about €250 to €400. If you buy, older homes start around €20,000 to €40,000 and usually need work. The cost of living is around €500 a month for a single person, including food and utilities. Incentives vary, but can include several €1,000 over the first few years. You need proof of income or remote work because local jobs are scarce. The population is mostly over 50. The appeal is mountain living in Italy at costs lower than almost anywhere in Western Europe, with some financial help. The challenge is isolation and lack of economic activity. One person who moved there described it as the most affordable life in Europe and the quietest. Their apartment is €300. Food is cheap. Town contributions offset costs further. But there is no nightlife, limited restaurants, and most entertainment is hiking or driving an hour to larger towns. Socially, they are still an outsider after 2 years. People are polite, but not inclusive. The community is strong, but it was built over lifetimes, not months. In short, Piobico offers real money and low costs, but you are buying into mountain isolation where integration is slow and you are the demographic anomaly. Weather matters. Winters in the Apennines are cold, snowy, and long. Heating costs rise. Roads can be difficult. If you romanticize Italian mountain life, remember it includes months of gray skies and temperatures that make you question your choices. Picture yourself in Piobico. Rent is €300. The town paid you €2,000 to move. The mountains are stunning. Then January hits. Snow falls for weeks. Heating bills climb. The nearest grocery store is a 30-minute drive on icy roads, and cheap summer living turns into isolated winter survival. Number 8, Legrad, Croatia. Legrad made headlines by offering free land if you commit to living there, and Croatia is legally easier than some other European options. Legrad is in northern Croatia near the Hungarian border with a population under 2,000. It sits along the Drava River in a region that flooded badly in the past, pushing people out. The town still has roads, schools, and services, just not enough people. So they started offering building plots for free. Here is the Legrad situation. The town offers free land. usually 400 to 500 square meters if you meet strict conditions. You must be under 45. You must commit to living there for at least 15 years. You must build a house within 2 to 3 years. Construction costs run about 500 to 800 euros per square meter, so a modest home costs roughly 40,000 to 80,000 euros. Monthly living costs are around 400 to 600 euros, including utilities. Property taxes are low. Local jobs are limited, but you are near larger towns in Hungary. Remote work is realistic. Internet is decent. The appeal is free land in the EU where you only pay to build. The catch is committing to a struggling small town for 15 years. One person who accepted said, "Legrad is more functional than expected. Services work. People are friendly. Their 3-bedroom home cost about 60,000 euros to build. Monthly expenses are around 500 euros. But 15 years is a serious commitment, and if life changes, they are legally locked in or risk losing everything. The social scene is limited. Most residents are older. They are welcomed, but clearly outsiders." In short, Legrad offers real free land with legal strings attached, but you are betting on a small Croatian town for a decade and a half. Flooding history matters. The Drava River has flooded multiple times. Infrastructure has improved, but risk remains. Insurance is essential. Building codes help, but nature ignores paperwork. Picture your custom home on free land. You spent 60,000 euros. You own it outright. Monthly costs are 450 euros. Then heavy rains come. The river rises. Evacuation warnings appear. You start watching water levels, wondering if free land came with expensive anxiety. Number 7. Ololai, Sardinia, Italy. Ololai is another Italian town selling homes for cheap and offering incentives because depopulation has gutted mountain communities across Sardinia. Ololai sits in central Sardinia at about 4,000 feet with around 1,200 residents. It is a traditional Sardinian village with stone buildings, narrow streets, forests, and a sense of being frozen in time. It is beautiful, remote, and steadily emptying. The town sells abandoned homes for €1 under similar rules to other Italian programs. They also offer incentives for remote workers, including rent contributions that can cut monthly costs by hundreds of euros. Here is Ololai. Homes sell for €1 with renovation requirements, usually at least 15,000 euros. Rent for existing apartments runs about 250 to 400 euros. Remote worker incentives can push rent even lower. The cost of living is around 400 to 500 euros per month. Sardinia is expensive to reach, with flights and ferries adding ongoing travel costs. The local economy is minimal. Tourism brings some life in summer, but winter is extremely quiet. The population is aging as younger Sardinians leave for the mainland. The appeal is owning property in Sardinia at costs that feel unreal, while living in a traditional mountain village surrounded by nature. The challenge is isolation layered on top of isolation. Sardinia is an island. Ololai is deep in the interior. You are isolated from already isolated places. One remote worker said Ololai offers incredible value and profound solitude. Their rent is 200 euros after incentives. The setting is stunning. But they went weeks without speaking English to anyone. The internet works, but is not fast. Supplies require trips to larger towns. Socially, they feel like they live in a museum where the exhibits are real people living traditions that have barely changed in 50 years. In short, Alolai combines multiple incentives to create extremely cheap mountain living, but you are accepting a level of isolation that even other remote towns would consider extreme. Sardinia has a unique culture. Sardinian is a distinct language, not just an Italian dialect, and many older residents primarily speak it. Outsider status is long-term and sometimes permanent. Picture life in Alolai. You bought a house for €1 and renovated for 20,000. Rent on a second place is €200 with subsidies. The mountains are incredible. Then you realize the nearest airport is 90 minutes away, your landlord barely speaks Italian, and the village festival you were invited to involves rituals you do not understand. But everyone assumes you do, because you live there now. Number 6, Troina, Sicily, Italy. Troina is offering cash payments, not just cheap housing, to people willing to move, and those payments can significantly offset living costs. Troina is in central Sicily at about 3,800 feet with around 9,000 residents. It is one of the highest towns in Sicily, with cold winters and cooler summers than the coast. The medieval center sits on a mountain top with wide views across the interior. The town had been losing people for decades as younger residents leave. In response, they launched a program offering new residents up to €7,500 over 3 years if they move there and bring remote work or open a business. Here is Troina. Rent starts around €250 a month. Homes for sale begin around €30,000 to €50,000. The incentive provides up to €7,500 spread across 3 years. You must show economic activity. The cost of living is about €400 to €500 monthly. The local economy is limited, mostly agriculture, small shops, and public sector work. Internet is functional. Mobile coverage is decent. The appeal is getting paid to move to Sicily while living at costs that can leave you financially ahead. The catch is committing to a town with a long history of economic decline and no clear turnaround. One person who relocated said, "Troina is colder than expected and quieter than imagined." The incentives covered most moving costs. Their rent is €280. Food is cheap. They are saving money for the first time in years, but the town feels stagnant. Younger people are still leaving. Businesses close more than they open. They question whether they are being paid to move somewhere that may be emptier in 10 years. In short, Troina pays you to relocate and keeps costs low, but you are betting on a place where incentives are a last attempt to slow decline. Winter is real. Troina gets snow. Temperatures drop below freezing. Older buildings are poorly insulated. Heating is necessary and not cheap. If you move to Sicily expecting endless sunshine, Troina will correct that idea every winter. Picture yourself in Troina. You receive €7,500 over 3 years. Rent is $250. You are under budget. Then December arrives, snow covers the town. Your apartment is cold. Heating bills climb. The romantic idea of Sicily collides with mountain reality. Number 5, Cinque Fondi, Calabria, Italy. Cinque Fondi is actively targeting remote workers, offering financial incentives that make it one of the more aggressive rural Italy deals. It is in Calabria, the toe of Italy's boot, with about 6,000 residents. The town sits in the mountains inland from the coast, surrounded by forests and farmland. Like much of southern Italy, it has lost younger generations to northern cities and other countries. In response, the town offers remote workers up to €8,000 over 3 years to relocate. They also provide co-working spaces and integration support. Here is the Cinque Fondi package. Rent runs about €200 to €400 a month. Incentives up to €8,000 are paid out over 3 years. Co-working space is included. The cost of living is around €450 monthly. Internet was upgraded specifically to attract remote workers and is generally decent. The local economy is agriculture and small businesses. Tourism is limited. The population skews older. The appeal is keeping your remote income while living costs drop dramatically, and you get paid to be there. The challenge is Calabria is one of Italy's poorest regions. Infrastructure is weaker. Organized crime exists even if it rarely affects foreigners directly. The social scene is thin. One remote worker said, Cinque Fondi exceeded expectations for support but matched expectations for isolation. The co-working space works. The town genuinely tries to integrate newcomers. Their rent is €300. With incentives, they were close to living free the first year. But there is little to do. Social life is mostly other remote workers, many of whom plan to leave once incentives end. The town feels temporary, not permanent. In short, Cinque Fondi offers some of the strongest incentives for remote workers in rural Italy, but even with support, you are isolated, and long-term stability feels uncertain. Calabria has a reputation. Organized crime is historically entrenched. While foreigners are usually not targets, the presence creates an uneasy backdrop. Corruption affects local governance. Projects move slowly or stall. If you need transparency and efficiency, Calabria will test your patience. Picture yourself working remotely from Cinque Fondi. Rent is $300. Incentives cover most of your first year. Your budget feels effortless. Then you notice half-finished projects, businesses that make no obvious sense, and a sense that informal systems run more than official ones. Sometimes cheap comes with complexities you will never see in a brochure. Number 4, Antikythera, Greece. Antikythera will pay you and your family to move there, give you housing and land, but you will be living on an island with about 45 residents and isolation that makes every other place on this list feel busy. Antikythera is a tiny Greek island between Crete and the Peloponnese. It is rocky, windy, and beautiful in a harsh, exposed way. It is famous for the Antikythera mechanism, an ancient device found in a nearby shipwreck. But historical fame does not bring population. The island is nearly empty and needs people badly. The Greek Orthodox Church, which owns much of the island, offers families a monthly stipend of €500, housing for the first few years, and land for building or farming. The conditions are strict. You must have at least 3 children. One adult must work in a needed profession such as fishing, farming, or construction. Here is the Antikythera deal. €500 per month for up to 3 years. Free housing initially. Land for building or agriculture. 3 or more children required. One adult must fill a local labor need. The cost of living is low, but life is subsistence-based. Supplies arrive by ferry, which is infrequent and weather-dependent. Internet is limited. Power relies on solar and generators. Medical care is basic. Serious problems require evacuation to Crete. The school has only a handful of students. The appeal is getting paid to live on a Greek island with almost no expenses and an extremely close-knit community. The challenge is raising a family in one of the most isolated places in Europe. One family who considered it backed out because the isolation felt too extreme for children. The stipend is attractive. Free housing and land are incredible. But the school has fewer than 10 kids. There is no pediatrician. Entertainment is nature and family. If something goes wrong medically, you are hours from real care. In short, Antikythera offers financial support and free resources, but you are committing your family to isolation most people are not prepared for. Weather controls everything. Ferries cancel often. When that happens, you are stuck. Supplies do not arrive. You wait. Living here means surrendering control over basic logistics. Picture your family on Antikythera. You get 500 euros a month. Housing is free. Your kids play on empty beaches. The community is tight. Then your child gets sick. The ferry is canceled due to wind. You wait for the weather to change, hoping it is nothing, knowing you cannot leave until nature allows it. Number 3, Rougemont, Switzerland. Rougemont is not abandoned, but Switzerland offers financial incentives to live in mountain villages facing population decline, and by Swiss standards, costs can be surprisingly manageable. Rougemont is in the Swiss Alps with around 2,000 residents in the broader area. It is classic alpine scenery, chalets, mountains, and postcard views. Switzerland is famously expensive, but some cantons offer incentives to attract families to smaller villages. These programs can include cash payments, land grants, or housing subsidies. Here is the Swiss alpine situation. Some cantons offer families up to 25,000 Swiss francs to relocate to designated villages. Rent in small alpine towns can run 800 to 1,200 francs a month, far lower than major cities. The cost of living is still high globally, but lower than Zurich or Geneva. Jobs exist in tourism, agriculture, or remote work. Schools are excellent. Infrastructure is world-class. Internet is fast. Healthcare is outstanding. The appeal is living in Switzerland with financial support, lowering the barrier to entry into one of the world's highest quality countries. The challenge is that even with incentives, Switzerland is not cheap, and mountain villages are small, quiet, and socially reserved. One family who moved said the incentives made it possible when it otherwise would not have been. They receive 15,000 francs. Their rent is 900 francs. Their kids attend excellent schools. But socially, integration is slow. Swiss mountain communities are polite but private. Making friends takes time measured in years, not months. Everything closes early. Life can feel monotonous if you are used to city energy. In short, Swiss mountain villages offer financial support and top-tier infrastructure, but even subsidized, it is not cheap, and social integration is challenging. Swiss culture values privacy, punctuality, and structure. Social life is scheduled. Spontaneity is rare. If you expect casual friendships to form quickly, Swiss culture can feel distant for a long time. Community exists, but you earn it slowly. Picture life in a Swiss alpine village. You receive an incentive. Rent is 900 francs. The scenery is flawless. Schools are top tier. Then you realize you have lived there 2 years and still have not been inside a neighbor's home, because socializing requires formal invitations planned weeks ahead. Sometimes perfect systems come with social walls that feel just as isolating as physical distance. Number 2, Camerata, Sicily, Italy. Camerata is selling homes for 5,000 euros and under, making it one of the cheapest true ownership options in Europe. Camerata is in south-central Sicily with around 6,000 residents. It sits on a mountain slope with wide valley views and medieval stone streets. Depopulation has left many homes abandoned, and the town sells them cheaply to attract new residents. Here is Camerata. Homes sell for about 1,000 to 5,000 euros depending on condition. Renovations typically cost 15 to 40,000 euros. Rent runs around 200 to 350 euros a month. The cost of living is about 400 euros monthly. Property taxes are minimal. The town has basic services, schools, and healthcare. Internet works. The job market is almost non-existent, so remote work is essential. The population is aging quickly. The appeal is owning a Sicilian home for less than the price of a used car after basic renovations. The challenge is you are moving into a town where long-term decline feels unavoidable, and your investment is a bet against that reality. One couple bought a house for 3,000 euros. Renovations cost 28,000. They own their home for 31,000 total. Monthly costs are 380 euros. They say Camerata is beautiful and melancholy. They watch neighbors pass away. Younger relatives inherit but do not return. Houses empty again. Despite efforts, the town keeps shrinking. They love their life, but wonder who will be left in 20 years. In short, Camerata offers ownership at used car prices, but you are buying into a community fighting demographic gravity. Depopulation is not abstract here. You feel it. People you know die, shops close, streets get quieter. If you need growth and energy, watching a place slowly empty can be emotionally heavy no matter how cheap your house was. Picture your Sicilian home that cost 3,000 euros. You renovated it. You own it outright. Costs are low. The views are beautiful. Then over 5 years, you attend more funerals than weddings, watch 3 businesses close on your street, and realize you are among the youngest people in town by a generation. Sometimes cheap means being present for the end of something. Number 1, Molise Villages, Italy. Molise takes the top spot because multiple villages in this forgotten region are offering cash payments and cheap housing in what may be Italy's most overlooked area. Molise is in south-central Italy, small, mountainous, and so often ignored that people joke it does not exist. The region has about 300,000 people and mountain villages are emptying fast. Several towns now pay people to move. Incentives range from 700 to 2,000 euros per month for up to 3 years. Housing is cheap, often under 50,000 euros to buy, or rentals for 250 to 400 euros. Here is the Molise package. Multiple villages participate. Monthly payments range from 700 to 2,000 euros for 3 years. Rent runs 250 to 400. Home purchases start under 50,000 for older properties. The cost of living is around 400 to 500 euros monthly. Internet is decent in most villages. The job market is nearly non-existent. Remote work is essential. The population is aging and shrinking across the region. The appeal is the math. In some cases, you are getting paid nearly 2,000 euros while living on under 500, meaning you can bank serious money just for being there, even before any income. The challenge is Molise is forgotten for real reasons. It is remote even by Italian standards. Infrastructure is weaker. Economic opportunity is minimal. The social scene is thin. You are moving to one of Italy's poorest, most overlooked regions, where decline has been happening for decades. One person who moved said, "The financial side is incredible. They get 1,200 euros monthly. Rent is 300. Living costs are 400. They save 500 before income. Financially, it is their best decision. But Molise is quiet, isolated, and deeply traditional. Villages are tiny. Everyone knows everyone. Privacy does not exist. Entertainment is hiking, cooking, and seeing the same small group of people. If you need culture, you drive ours. They are saving money while questioning whether financial security is worth social isolation. In short, Molise offers the strongest incentives and lowest costs on this list, letting you live comfortably and save money on modest income. But you are moving to one of Italy's most forgotten corners, where the trade-off is profound isolation and living inside a community in visible decline. Picture yourself in a Molise village. You receive 1,000 euros monthly. Rent is 300. Living costs are 400. You are banking money. The mountains are beautiful. Then you sit in the village square where the same older residents gather every day to talk about the past because the present is quiet and the future feels uncertain. Sometimes the cheapest option is expensive in ways that never show up on a spreadsheet. These mountain towns are real. The costs are genuinely this low. The incentives are legitimate. But cheap comes with isolation, cultural adjustment, bureaucratic challenges, and often the melancholy reality that you are moving somewhere people are leaving. Would you trade urban convenience and social connection for financial freedom in a mountain town where you might be the only person under 50? Yes, I am ready for isolated cheap living, or no, I need civilization more than I need cheap rent. Drop your isolation tolerance in the comments, because we just counted down 10 mountain towns where $500 a month gets you housing and solitude in equal measure. Like this video, if you learn mountain towns worldwide are emptying and governments are desperate enough to pay you to fill them. Subscribe, because knowing where cheap housing exists might matter when rent everywhere else becomes unsustainable.